You know, some stories feel like they're straight out of a horror movie. But this is different. This is the chilling, true story of a family whose incredible beauty became a lightning rod for a jealousy so intense it's supposedly called something out from another world. We're about to explore how simple family envy can fester and unleash absolute supernatural terror.
And this quote, wow, it just cuts right to the bone, doesn't it? It perfectly sets the tone for everything that's about to happen. It's this dark reminder that sometimes the people who are closest to you are the ones who can hurt you the most. And in this story, that becomes terrifyingly real.
All right, so let's meet the family at the heart of all this. We have Mariam, a young girl, and her two older twin brothers, Ashfaq and Kaif. And this family, they were just stunningly beautiful. It was a gift, something special about them. But that gift, that blessing, would tragically turn into the very thing that cursed them.
Okay, so here's where the trouble really begins. Their mother was Pashtun, from Iran, and because of that, her children had these incredibly unique features, really fair skin, different colored eyes. You know, they just didn't look like anyone else in their Indian extended family. And they all lived together in this big family compound, so this difference wasn't something they could hide. Instead of being celebrated, it became this source of constant simmering jealousy, especially from one of their uncles and his family.
So you have all this jealousy just bubbling under the surface, and it was about to find the perfect excuse to just explode. And like so many family dramas, it all kicked off with a marriage proposal. An offer that wasn't just turned down, it was openly laughed at.
And I mean, just look at this comparison. You can see right away why it was such a ridiculous idea. On one side, you've got Mariam, young, beautiful, from a really good family. And on the other side, her cousin, Ubed. He was way older, had this reputation for being a total hooligan. You know, gambling, drinking, just no job, no manners. It was a complete and total mismatch.
But here's the thing. It wasn't enough to just say no. Mariam's brothers, Ashfaq and Kaif, they actually mocked the whole idea. They laughed right in their faces. And that public humiliation, that was the breaking point. It took all that quiet, passive jealousy and twisted it into this burning, active need for revenge. So, sometime later, Ubed ends up getting married to someone else. Mariam's family is invited to the wedding. And it's here, in the middle of this big celebration, that the uncle's family decides to put their dark plan into action. And they used a simple, traditional sweet dish to do it.
Now, Mariam's mother was a sharp woman, and she noticed something off. Here, this sweet pudding was being served to everyone, but while all the other bowls were a nice yellowish color from saffron, her son's bowls were pure white. So she asks her sister-in-law about it, and the excuse comes back so fast and easy. Oh, we just ran out of saffron. It sounds plausible, right? A totally minor thing at a busy party, but it wasn't. It was a calculated, hateful act. A week passes. Everything seems to go back to normal. But that curse, delivered in that sweet white pudding, was just getting started. The family was about to be plunged into a weekend of absolute horror, as something inhuman, a jinn, a spirit made of smokeless fire, began to take over the two brothers. And the shift was so fast, it was terrifying. On Friday, Ashfaq's face just turns beet red and feels like it's burning hot. Then, Saturday morning, Kaif, who was always so gentle, violently shoves his own sister, Mariam, while she's praying. By that afternoon, the horror just ramps up. Ashfaq is found on the floor, grotesquely licking the blood of a dead chicken. It was a complete descent into madness.
Any doubt they had about what was happening vanished in an instant. Their father, furious about Kaif hurting Mariam, moves to hit him. But suddenly Ashfaq steps in, and the voice that comes out of his mouth is not his. It's this deep, gravelly voice of an old man. And it taunts his father, yelling, hit him more, let's see who wins."
Now what makes this even worse is that the father had been hiding a secret. After Ashfaq's first incident with the red face, he'd secretly gone to the mosque. And the local imam gave him this terrifying warning. He said Shab-e Barat, a holy night with immense spiritual energy, was coming up. He told him he had to be incredibly careful for the next few days because whatever was happening to his sons was going to reach its absolute peak.
And on Saturday night, it did. The family wakes up to the sound of pots crashing and Kaif screaming in pure agony. They race to his room, and it's filled with this thick smoke and the disgusting smell of rotten meat. Suddenly, a hand shoots out of the smoke. It's Ashfaq, and he literally yanks his father into the room. The parents see their sons' faces covered in blood like they'd been clawing at themselves. And before anyone can react, Ashfaq slams the door shut and locks it. They're all trapped inside with them.
So they're trapped. It's a complete nightmare, and it feels hopeless. But then, a scream for help changes everything. An unexpected visitor arrives, who's not just going to save them, but is finally going to reveal the true nature of the evil they're up against.
Miriam's terrified screams were loud enough to be heard across the compound, and they reached her other uncle, her Bade Abu, or elder uncle. And here's the key part. He happened to be a sheikh, a respected religious leader who was just visiting from Saudi Arabia. He hears the chaos, gets no answer at the door, so he climbs up onto the roof, gets into the house, and with help, breaks down that locked door and gets the family out.
Okay, so once everyone is safe, they bring in a Maulana, an Islamic scholar, to figure out what in the world is going on. And his diagnosis is absolutely chilling. The brothers weren't sick, they were possessed. And not by just anything, but by a Marid jinn. Think of this as one of the most powerful, most evil, and hardest to control spirits out there. This wasn't some minor curse, this was an act of full-blown spiritual warfare.
So the boys did eventually get the help they needed, but the horror of that weekend, it left a scar that would never fully heal. The immediate danger was over, but the fear and the terrible knowledge of what their own family was capable of, that would stick with them forever. Ashfaq and Kaif went through treatment at the mosque, and thankfully they recovered. And that's when their mother finally put all the pieces together, right back to that pure white kheer. And here's the most chilling detail. They realized the only reason Maryam was spared is because she just happened to not like milky sweets, so she'd refused to eat any. They just couldn't live with that knowledge. They packed everything up, moved to a whole new city, and started over. The story says that even now, to this day, they will go to family gatherings, but they will never ever touch the food.
And that leaves us with this really haunting question. You know, a story like this makes you think that maybe the most terrifying monsters aren't the supernatural spirits like a jinn. Maybe the real monsters are the dark, ugly emotions like jealousy that can grow in the hearts of the people you're supposed to be able to trust the most. It really makes you wonder, what could possibly be more dangerous than the jealousy of your own blood?